Hey family, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you coming through and hanging with me as I take you through my illustration process of an iconic singer and woman you can't go through the holiday season without hearing named Mariah Carey. And if you've never done any type of digital artwork, a lot of artists like myself like to build their work based on layers or the layer structure. What that means is in the application, Adobe Illustrator allows you to create illustrations using different layers. What's a better way of me to put it? Think about it like looking at a building. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. On each floor, there's going to be different departments, different people, etc. But if you fly all the way to the top of that building and look down, all you see is the single building from the top. It's the same thing with digital art. For example, I can do all of my line work on one layer, which is how I'm starting here today, as you can see there. But before I do my line work, I import either a sketch or a photo and get going from there. I got a lot of work ahead of me, but right now I'm getting ahead of myself. Of course, if you don't know Mariah Carey, you may have been under a rock for like the last 20 to 30 years, but she's been an icon in the music industry. Amazing voice. And many know her today from having previously married, now stud muffin, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Nick Cannon. Now, of course, they're not married anymore, so I will move on from there. But Mariah's story literally began in the spring, I guess you would call it springtime, 1970, in the spring of 1970. Actually, she was born March 27th in 1970. One thing I didn't know, which was interesting to me, was that she was a New York baby, an East Coast baby. With Carey, she was born in Long Island, New York, to her dad, Alfred Roy Carey, and her mama, Patricia Hickey. So if you just look at their family structure, Mariah also had an older brother and an older sister. Her brother's name was Morgan, and her sister's name was Allison. So, yeah, small little family of five. That's real cool there. Now, of course, as time went on, her parents did end up getting divorced when Mariah was young. But I like to look at Mariah's family tree. Let's talk about the family tree for a minute. A lot of y'all, you might be seeing them commercials online, the ancestry.com, test your DNA, yada, yada, yada. Well, if you don't know, it looks like Mariah got her voice from her mama's side of the family tree. You might say she got it from her mama. And it's crazy because Mariah's mom noticed her voice as early as when Mariah was 2 years old. And Mariah started having singing lessons when she was 4 years old. Yeah. So it's crazy how early that she got into the business. But mama knew what she knew because Mariah's mom was an opera singer. She did performances there at the New York Opera. She was a vocal coach. She pretty much knew what she was looking to hear, so she hooked her baby up early. Now, just checking back in on what you're seeing me do here, I complete all of my line work first. Once I complete all of my line work, I select every individual black line that I've drawn. I just basically get the lasso tool, highlight the whole thing, get all of that, and make sure I highlight everything I've drawn. After selecting the art, I use the merge feature. There's a Pathfinder drop down. So under all the windows in Adobe Illustrator, under the Pathfinder, I open up my Pathfinder and there's a merge button that allows me to merge all of my lines. Basically, this takes all the individual strokes and lines that I've done and it merges them into one piece of artwork, one black line artwork. Now, this will also be my top layer that I'll lock down because I don't want to do any other drawing around that or to alter that. That's going to be like my guide that keeps me in line. Like it'd be like going to a Major League Baseball game. You see the strike zone there where, the umpire is supposed to be looking. Where that ball, if it goes there, it's a strike. Well, I'm trying to keep mine in my strike zone. So I use my top layer as my guide to creating my art. But once I create that top line, or that top layer, I should say, I create a duplicate layer. So it's like I make two of the same layer, one on the top, always locked down. Keep it on lockdown. But everything below that, I'm using that to build from. So when I create my duplicate, I basically add color to that duplicate on the bottom layer. Now, where I'm going with this is I'll go to like the shape building tool, draw the skin tone on top of my duplicate line art. Now, from there, I take that color square and send it to the back. It's almost like working in any other art application or PowerPoint. If you want an image to go behind something, you send it to the back. So I right click on the skin tone square that I drew and send that to the back. And then I go back and do what I just did before, where on this new layer that's at the bottom, not my top layer, I select everything, go to my Pathfinder, merge that again. And then once all of that is merged into the same graphic, I right click on that image and do isolate selected groups. I know that was a lot there, but all that allows me to do is basically pick the colors I want to change or delete or sections from the artwork without having to go in there and manually color everything. Now, if you screw up, because in Illustrator, if you don't close off a line, so for example, maybe you draw an eye, but you don't have all the lines touching, without everything being closed, this process doesn't work. You can still go in there and manually color, but this whole merging everything together like you're seeing there, I can get a lot of the major sections done base color wise without having to do a ton of work. All right, so moving on, as you can see, everything is working out there. Yeah, color's all good. So I've added my color. Now, going back into Carey for a second, Carey was like, man, she was young, actually. Matter of fact, as a teenager, once she got out of high school, she worked a bunch of odd jobs. I mean, a lot of us have. But if you knew Carey back in the day and you were maybe at a restaurant in her city, Carey could have been an actual waitress, because she was a waitress working odd jobs. Literally, she worked in the day, and her plan was to find somebody to hook her up in the music industry at night. So working 9 to 5. Well, I mean, I don't know if she's working 9 to 5, but you get my drift. She's working in the daytime, looking for that Music Connect at night. And she actually found that Music Connect at night after going to an industry party. And she gave her demo tape out to an industry exec named Tommy Mottola. And, well, they ended up getting together, and she got her record deal too. So, kind of 2 for 1. Found love and a record deal all in the same party. So when I say shopping her demo, back in the day, we used to have this thing called a cassette. Okay. With the cassette, you would record your music there as a demonstration to the record labels. So Mariah would make a bunch of copies of these, passing them out around town. It wasn't like today with the internet where you could record your music, upload it to the site, send a text, share the link. It was hardcore. You walking around with a bag of tapes. And that's what she did to get on. So, I definitely ain't mad at her, because a lot of folks, that's how they did it back in the day, was passed around a demo. So, Mariah got on from there. Now, her debut album dropped, and look, it was on and cracking from the moment she dropped her, because Tommy Mottola was a music genius way back in the day. So when her album dropped, she had 4 singles just in that album that were hits. I mean, after she released it in 1990, she had songs like Vision of Love, Love Takes Time, Someday, and I Don't Want to Cry. All those were #1 singles. Then she turns right around 2 years later and drops her second album in 92, and that had a bunch of singles like Can't Let Go and Make It Happen. I mean, Mariah was on fire when she dropped. I remember the MTV Unplugged thing. You really don't see a lot of that on MTV that much anymore. But she went on to MTV Unplugged, basically did her thing, and she did a Jackson 5 cover that was fire. I mean, I'll Be There. She did her little rendition of that. That became a single. Mariah was just, the ish, to say the least. Her Christmas album, we talked about that beginning the show, she pretty much hit on all four cylinders, except for that glitter movie. That glitter movie did not do well, but she also admitted to having some issues, dealing with her behavioral health. So a lot of things going on there, but she recovered. Moving forward to 2012, she would literally go on to like American Idol. So she was there with Randy Jackson, Nicki Minaj. She got into that hip hop flavor with Puffy. Puffy did some production for her on one of her albums, bringing hit singles like that. Just a lot. She even did a duet with iconic, R.I.P. Whitney Houston. So a lot of work that she did. But, needless to say, Mariah is an industry icon, and I'm getting ready to wrap this one up. So putting my final touches on my Mariah cartoon. I hope you enjoyed the artwork I did. And I always come through sharing famous people, icons in history and more. Some days the person just hits me and I want to draw them, and then others is something from maybe like a date in history. But anyway, that's just how I work. I grab my digital pen and I get busy. If you like what I'm doing, I'd appreciate some love if you go on to YouTube and just search me there. You can hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell icon. You'll get instant alerts there. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for checking me out right here on FresBerg Creates. Peace.